everyone. Welcome back to this week's webinar of Airdomo, where today we are going to cover branded residences. Now, branded residences, this is still home ownership, but it's branded. And I'm Stephanie Gillison. This is my great pal, Kat. And Kat has had a ton of experiences with branded residences because she's traveled all around and written and stayed at a lot of these things. So, Kat, I'm excited about today's topic.
Yeah, me too. Who loves a good, hotel amenity more than me? And that's what you get when you decide to purchase a branded residence. So this is exciting, and let's dive in.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so first, let's maybe discuss branded residences, what they are, and for those that may not know.
Absolutely. And so, this is luxury residential properties that are affiliated with those well-known hospitality brands, maybe even fashion brands, automotive brands, or other prestigious industries. Okay. So these properties have that high-end living with premium services and amenities. So, for example, you own the real estate, but it feels like you're going to stay at a resort or a hotel where they're still offering you all those amenities, maybe the spa, maybe, taking the cleaning, the staff, the restaurants. There's just so much more luxury there. And so, whereas we've been talking about buying, your second, your third home or short-term rental, in a different location, that you're buying a property and then you're going to visit whatever's around that property. Here, you're going to have a lot more choices within the branded resort. Does that make sense, Kat?
Yeah, totally. So explain, how does the whole process work?
Yeah. So a lot of these, what happens is a lot of these developers will reach out to a brand affiliation and say, look, I want to brand the Ritz-Carlton, or I want to brand the Four Seasons, or I want to brand the Aston Martin, right? And so they'll align themselves with these brands. And then that brand, just like they do with any hotel, resort, or whatever, they will set the precedents as to how those developers need to deliver, right? With assuring that quality, that prestige, the right premium amenities, the right concierge services, private dining options, how the property is managed, all of that design excellence, because a lot of these brands want things to be cohesive across where, they've got to set standard of what they want everything to look like, how they want it to appeal. Okay. Right. These properties cater to that high net worth individual because, they're spending quite a bit of money to associate with this brand. And then also with the requirements of having these amenities at your fingertips, well, that comes with a cost.
Yeah, it definitely does, but worth it. I mean, if you're a hotel person and you don't want to cook or you don't want to do anything like that, is it amazing? It's an amazing thing to be able to have 24-hour room service or go to a spa and have it right there at your fingertips. So
or have the option of the private chef coming into your kitchen and cooking your meal right there in front of you and your guests, which is also something that is optional, with some of these resorts.
Right. So let's talk about some of the market trends, like what's happening, how many developments are there, globally? Why is it so popular?
Well, these branded residents, they're rapidly growing. There's over 700 developments globally.
Wow.
And that is a significant expansion from the past, but there's even more expansion expected by 2030. Okay. Popular locations include Miami, Dubai, New York, emerging markets like Asian Pacific, Latin America, and of course the Caribbean. Bahamas is a big location for these. And so, what's interesting is is we've spent a lot of time here on the Airdomo webinars talking about destination locations in the Caribbean and Central America and stuff. But you just heard me mention Miami and New York and Dubai. These are other places where people want to buy these destination locations and have these branded residences.
Yeah, I know the last time I was in Miami, I was shocked. There was Aston Martin buildings and there was fashion buildings, and I think Ferragamo had a building, and I was like, "What is happening?" If you're a fan of that, you know that you're going to buy in with like-minded people as well. All the residents are gonna be very like-minded, have the similar lifestyle, so very, very popular. Um, so you kind of touched on the benefits of owning branded residence. Can you dive in a little bit more?
Yeah, well, what the benefit, the protection, right? These branded residences are going to stick with that high end real estate, exceptional services. Okay. And so
Mhm.
that's always going to help you with resale value. All right. And keep that appeal to all buyers seeking a home, but also with that lifestyle experience that they're also, wanting. Okay. Having access to those world-class amenities, that's important to people. And having those facilities obviously are going to be important to resale value. And, if you've got spas and fitness centers and pools and private dining options and wellness facilities right there, then, there's always going to be buyers that are going to want to invest in that. And so, it's great to be able to have these types of properties because they can be a little bit more out and away from the rest of the developments, be a little bit more reclusive because they're
Mhm.
offering these amenities on site. Obviously service, people want to go away and they want to be spoiled, right? I know
Yeah.
I do. And so to have that concierge assistance, housekeeping, the security is also something. But to just feel like you are on vacation, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes sometimes you own property and you go to the property, you feel like you have chores with that property. Owning a branded residence, that portion goes away. You don't have that. You're not dealing with that. It's been maintained and managed and taken care of the entire time you're gone. And you really do feel like you're stepping into that hotel resort experience. So that always gives it that investment stability that people are looking for. And of course, attractive rental returns. If you're looking to, rent it out and have some return on that investment, people are also looking to go on vacation and be spoiled and to be taken care of. And so instead of staying in an Airbnb where, they've got to go out and find restaurants, they've got to do their own cleanup and do their own grocery shopping, here they can rent from you owning a branded residence and still have all of those amenities and then pay much more per night and so forth. So obviously there's a legacy value to these properties. These resorts, these branded resorts aren't huge.
Mhm.
They're on the smaller side of things. So there's only so many of them. Okay. And so once people buy these, a lot of times they're in that network with other people.
Right.
They're fostering that sense of community among the residents with similar lifestyles, and the owners are gaining access to one another. They're gaining access to global network of like-minded individuals, and so they're doing this for business as well too, because what better way to network
Yeah.
than to be involved in something like this?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that part, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great because you know that they're all gonna be high net individuals, possibly in the same business. So yeah, definitely a great networking opportunity.
Yeah.
So let's talk about explain to us how brand recognition impacts the resale value of branded residences.
Well, anything that is a globally recognized luxury brand
Hmm.
is going to appeal to affluent buyers seeking that exclusivity and quality, right?
Yep.
There's a big difference, and I don't want to offend anybody, but this is an example, okay? There is a big difference, to having a Yugo car
Hmm.
and a Mercedes Benz, right? I
Huge.
mean, it
Yep.
says something.
It,
Okay. And so that's kind of what this is too. Just like you said, when you went to Miami and you saw the Aston Martin building or the
Mhm.
Fendi building, that is
Cafe.
attracting buyers
Yeah.
where they want that exclusivity. They want those luxury brands. They want to be able to say, those things. Because of that, these developers can demand a premium price.
Mhm.
They typically will command 20 to 40% more than comparable unbranded residences.
Wow.
So that's driven by the brand's reputation, right? For quality, for design excellence, for superior service standards, okay? But buyers are willing to pay more for that assurance and the status that comes with owning a branded residence, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I can buy a BMW X5, or I can buy a Ferrari. They both get me to the same place, but one means something much more than the other. Okay. And
Yep.
look, there's two different personalities out there. One is not right and one is not wrong, but there's two different personalities out there and there's two different types of buyer. And one prefers this enhanced lifestyle.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Um, are there any specific brands that significantly boost the resale value of a residence?
Well, the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, a lot of these with the hospitality sector, that is something that, is definitely recognizable because people can equate that to hospitality, right? They
Right.
see Four Seasons, they see the Ritz-Carlton names, and they're like, "Oh, well, I stayed at one of those in Chicago, or I stayed at one of those in San Diego." And they immediately remember their stay being pampered and they love it, right? And so those typically demand even more just because of the relationship between hospitality.
Can you give us an example of maybe a couple of developments that are in progress?
Well, there's so many different developments that are going on, but one of the things that is phenomenal about the developments that are happening, there's several being built in the Caribbean. You've got the Four Seasons Nevis Peak Residences, which is in St. Kitts in Nevis. This is located on the grounds of a Four Seasons resort. So they're doing 58 luxury residences across
Mhm.
6 buildings, okay? But then it's
Perfect.
also part of an actual resort. You've got Montage K, which is part of the Bahamas.
Right.
You've got the Four Seasons K Chappelle, which is in Belize. You've got another Four Seasons resort in Puerto Rico. That project's really neat because it includes 85 private branded residences alongside a reimagined resort with 139 rooms and suites. So what's cool
Wow.
about that is you can buy a private residence, but let's say you have a really big family and you all want to go there for a holiday, and you don't have enough room in the branded residence, but you're connected to the resort with 139 rooms and suites. So you can all still be within that same 483 acres of resort. And that has access to golf courses, it's beachfront living, it's pools, it's spas, it's fine dining. All of these are again, centered around the hospitality sector, which is why you're hearing those names. You've got Mandarin Oriental Residence, which is in the Grand Caymans. Again, the Mandarin, a
Mhm.
hospitality name. That's going to be a beach house, 20 units above a resort, and an ocean house, 22 units in a private building. But prices of that start at $6 million, you all. So you got to have some coin. All
Yeah.
right. You got to have some coin. This isn't anything that Kat or Stephanie are going to go and strike a check. And even if we merged one another, we're going tomorrow and going in on one of these things. But, what's great about all of these is that there's something for everyone out there. And again, there wouldn't be over 700 of these developments across the globe currently, and even more of a high demand between now and 2030 if they weren't popular, right? People
Yeah.
wouldn't be building these if they weren't selling. They are selling, they are popular, and they are continuing to gain notoriety. And these places are going on some of these other islands that we've talked about on some of our other webinars because
Mhm.
That way they can bring some of these prices down. And so, that's one of the things that we want to do here at our Airdomo is keep you, the public, informed of when one of these developments, branded or not branded, come alive in a community, that could be, allowing for some of us to get in there. We want to be able to tell you about that. That's what we're doing here at Airdomo, is to bring to you everything that is going on when it comes to destination location real estate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember, like, even a few years ago, I mean, if we say 10 years ago, they were starting out, but I think at that time, maybe Four Seasons was the only property doing them.
Yeah.
Now, I think we talked about it earlier, Montage, Pendry, all of these different brands, Bulgari, they're all, doing branded residences. So it's an exciting space right now. So thank you for sharing this. And next week, we are going to actually focus on a destination that is, which is the Bahamas, which is really building a lot of different branded residences, different properties, different types of clients, and it's really, really an exciting space.
Awesome. I can't wait till
All
next
right,
week, everyone. Thank you.
bye.